This is a big deal. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Thank you. I'm all done. I'm always really embarrassed when I'm introduced at events like this, mostly because when a person, as Professor Rupp did, introduced me, they usually kind of go on about these things that I've achieved, but really I don't view them as achievements. I frankly view the work of all of our students as being achievements, and they are the real achievers. So I would be really appreciative if you'd indulge me once again and applaud the young men of Urban Prep. Seeing all this, that we'll have some Urban Prep lions about pretty soon. So I'm confident that's going to happen. President Heckler, thank you very much for your warm welcome to me as well. You, in your introductory remarks, grabbed one of the quotes that I'm going to be using in my speech. So, great minds think alike. I had a former student once who had to give a speech, and during that speech, or right before the speech, he got on the stage, he came up to me, and he said, okay, I'm about to go on, and I said, well, where's your speech you have it written down? And he said, no, Mr. King, I'm going to do it a cappella. I'm pretty sure he meant it extemporaneously, and I was freaking out. I said, no, you got to write your speech down, you got to write your speech down. And he got up there and he did it a cappella, and I was impressed. I, however, am not nearly as impressive as that young man, so I wrote my speech down. I hope from time to time, if I do it a little a cappella, you don't mind. But let me get started right now. 50 years ago, Dr. King had already done his share to make the world a better place. He had come to the nation's attention in about 1955 with his leadership in the Montgomery bus boycott. That took 381 days of sacrifice, of commitment, of taking the first step and all the subsequent steps in faith. When have we committed to 381 days of sacrifice, of taking steps in faith? It's easy to think of Dr. King as someone who has a day in his name, a monument on the nation's Capitol Mall, and a Nobel Peace Prize. But I find it useful to remember the days before he had these things, when he was a man who did not have a settled past to tell him that his bus boycott or anything he was going to do was going to be a success. When he had the March on Washington and he developed the refrain, I have a dream, he wanted people to wake from a bigoted slumber. But he didn't know that he was going to be able to wake anybody up. He didn't know that the dream he had would ever become a reality. I try to remember the days when Dr. King didn't know what his successes would be, when he didn't have a settled past of great achievements on which to look. I try to remember Dr. King when he was just a man who simply believed. This is a message that I try to impart on the young men of Urban Prep. When they walk through our doors of our schools, they are often overwhelmed, rightfully so, by the expectations that we hold them to. Often the rewards we promise, like college or greater job opportunities, seem very far away and very tenuous, while the challenges of violence, homelessness, hopelessness seems very present and very certain. We ask our students to take the first step in faith each day, even if they cannot see the whole staircase. We ask our students, as our motto states, as Dr. King did, to believe. Every morning, our students recite the Urban Prep School Creed. The last few lines of this creed are, we believe in ourselves, we believe in each other, we believe in Urban Prep, we believe. While it may be the end of the creed, it's just the beginning of what we want our students to believe. There was once an old man who was near death. His grandson visited him, and while the younger man sat at his grandfather's side, the old man said, I love you, and I love your children too. I love you, and I love your children too. The grandson, who was barely 16, thought to himself, oh, granddad's really losing it. And he looked at his grandfather, held his hand, and he said, Grandpa, I love you too, but I don't have any kids. You don't have any grandchildren to love. The old man looked at him through eyes aged with wisdom and said, I know, but you will have children. I will have great-grandchildren. They will have children, and I will love them. I do love them. What the old man was telling his grandson was, it is possible to love people we don't even know. In fact, we have a responsibility to love people, even those we do not know. This is what I want our students to believe. So much of what Dr. King did was aimed at creating a world for people he would never meet. I venture to guess that not a single person in this room ever met Dr. King. Yet he loved us all the same. This is a part of Dr. King's work that can inspire all of us. Sometimes we actually get to see the results of our efforts, but most of the time, we will never know the destination or the journey caused by the ripple that occurred when we touched the water. When he took that first step in faith in 1955, Dr. King never knew that his work would inspire millions, hundreds of millions, an entire planet of people to persevere in the face of adversity. Not all of us are going to go down in history as Dr. Martin Luther King, but the whole point of thinking of Dr. King not as the historical figure, but as that guy who hadn't achieved all those things yet, as the man who took that first step in faith, is to remind us that the most important thing is not how history remembers you, but how you face the choice that each steps bring. How you will play a part in creating a world worth living in for people you will never meet, but should always love. Tupac Shakur once said, yeah, I'm calling you a Tupac. I'm not going to change the world, but I guarantee you I will change the mind that changes the world. What if our job here isn't to make the big changes, but rather the little changes that will empower the people after us to make those big changes? We don't all have to be Dr. King to participate in his vision in meaningful ways. The names of those thousands of boycotters struggling to get to work every day, day after day, for 381 days, their names have been largely lost to history. But their faith helped topple injustices, propel Dr. King to a national stage. Their efforts continue to inspire us in trying times to take the next step, even if we can't always see where their staircase is leading or how many more steps it will take for us to get there. All of us alive today have a great debt to Dr. King and other great leaders of all ages, of all pasts, that we must pay forward. When we sit wherever we want on the bus, when we eat in any restaurant we choose, when we vote, when we become president of the United States. We are drinking from wells we did not dig. We are sitting in the shade of trees we did not plant. All of us, generations X and Y, the multitudes of races, religions, nationalities, and lifestyles that share this world, all of us benefit from the legacy of those who came before. This legacy is so expansive that it's difficult to see everything we owe to them. This legacy is so important that we have to stop and celebrate the lives of people like Dr. Martin Luther King. It's so important that we have to remind ourselves of the good things in our lives that were the results of other people's hard work. Not ours, other people. You were sitting in this university today because of the sacrifices and hard work of your president, of your parents, your grandparents, your great-grandparents, ancestors you never even knew or thought of existed. Yes, you have worked hard, but those before you worked harder so that you could work at all. Progress does not happen by itself. What we are doing to deserve the great gifts that previous generations have lived and worked and died to provide us with, and what we are doing to continue that work, that's important. What are we doing? How are we paying it forward? What wells are we digging? What trees are we planting? In thinking of Dr. King and the Montgomery bus boycotters in their present as opposed to in our past, I realized that they didn't do the things they did because they had to. They didn't have to. At any step along the way, they could have stopped. They could have gotten on a bus, sat down. Sure, they might have had to sit in the back, but they could have ridden a bus. At any point in those 381 days, they could have stopped. But they did not. They continued their sacrifice. Dr. King never stopped working. He never stopped working because he believed in the future he envisioned, not just for himself, but for all of us. He held himself accountable for realizing that vision, that dream. He loved people he would never meet. He loved each and every one of us. As a student in the late 1940s at Morehouse College, Martin Luther King wrote, as you heard earlier, intelligence plus character. That is the goal of true education. I will throw in here that Dr. King managed to skip both the 9th grade and the 12th grade. He actually went to Morehouse without officially graduating from high school. But he was so tenacious and wanted to learn more so much that he went on to college and at a very young age, wrote those words, intelligence plus character, that is the true goal of education. This quote, frankly, is at the core of the mission that led us to found Urban Prep. We hold ourselves accountable for fostering our students' intelligence, but if we only help them become knowledgeable and clever enough to succeed in college or score high on the ACT, we have failed, or rather, put another way, we have not fully succeeded. The Urban Prep Creed says we choose to live honestly, non-violently, and honorably. We respect ourselves, and in doing so, respect all people. So while it is the 100% college acceptance rate for our graduates that has garnered us so much national and international attention, that is only part of how we at Urban Prep define our success. The other equally important, perhaps even more important part in how we measure our success is, to paraphrase Dr. King, judging the content of our students character. Character without intelligence, character without intelligence struggles to take effect, struggles to affect the real change that is necessary in our world. Intelligence without character, in fact, I think creates the wrong kinds of change in our world. If you're smart, you may think you know everything and you've got all the answers. If you've got heart, you really do. In determining the extent to which we have succeeded in this mission at Urban Prep, the numbers help demonstrate to the world the intellectual capacity of our students, but the lives they lead demonstrate their character. This is why at Urban Prep we celebrate academic excellence, yes, but we also devote just as much energy to encouraging and celebrating excellent character. Character like Cedric Hakeem, a member of Urban Prep's class of 2011, when his house caught fire, he made sure his family got out of the burning house safely, and then he ran back in to get his college application essays. That's character. That young man is a freshman at Cornell College right now. We celebrate the character of Krishan Branch, who hated Urban Prep so much that he did everything he possibly could to get put out. Caused fights, failed his classes, everything. Eventually, he got that wish and he left Urban Prep. And when he got to his new school, he realized that he had to stop acting like a character in order to build his character, and he begged us to take him back. And we did. He came back to Urban Prep and conducted himself in a way that showed failing doesn't make you a failure, but rather gives you another chance to succeed. Mr. Branch is now a sophomore at Fisk University. And we celebrate the character of Matthew Williams, a homeless student who attended Urban Prep. This young man at times didn't have a place to lay his head, but he made sure each and every day he laid down his mind in the classroom. And he made it all the way from homelessness to the Ivy League of Cornell University, where he is a freshman today. In education, as in other worthwhile pursuits in life, we cannot expect our labors to bear fruit immediately or even visibly. I had a student once, and sometimes I suppose what ends up happening is we think that our work is in vain. I know that I certainly have faced those dark nights myself. I had a student once named Alfred. From the first moment I met this young man, I knew that he was something special. I knew that he was a boy who, with the right kind of guidance and support, would change the world. And so I committed doing everything I possibly could to positively impact this young man. I mentored him, taught him, I worked with him each and every day. When he went off to college, we continued our communication, email, text messaging, telephone calls. He graduated from college and asked me if he could come work at Urban Prep because he wanted to give something back that had been given to him. He wanted to mentor as he had been mentored. A few months after taking the job as our Director of Alumni Affairs, working with our graduates once they are in college, providing that mentoring and support for them that he so benefited from. Alfred was out of the country and swimming, and a wave took him under and the current took him out to sea and he died. The person who I saw at 14 and knew he would go on to change the world. Wade took him out to sea, and he drowned. He was 29 years old. It broke my heart to hear the news that he was gone. And it is a struggle each and every day to know that I will not hear his laugh, see his face, and witness the great work that he was going to do in his lifetime. It is a struggle each and every day. That's an example of a dark time. But you know what? I take solace in knowing that Alfred was loved, and more important, that he loved. He loved our students at Urban Prep. He loved our students' kids. He loved our students' kids' kids. He loved our students' kids' 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 kids. He loved people he would never meet. Each day of his very brief 29 years on this planet, he loved people he would never know. The work each of us does is for the future, not the present. If we are lucky enough to see our hands in the achievements of others, then we should not stop and use those hands to pat ourselves on the back. We should instead recognize it as a gift, a flash of light briefly illuminating the stairway ahead, a beacon that fortifies us for the long journey up that staircase that we cannot begin to. On this day, I celebrate our students, yes. I celebrate Alfred, yes. I celebrate Dr. King, yes. On this day, I celebrate the Montgomery bus boycotters. I celebrate the Little Rock Nine. On this day, I celebrate the millions of people who came before all of them, came before all of us, the forgotten multitudes who stood up in their times so that the ground would be ready to take us when we make our stand today. I celebrate, but I also acknowledge that our work is far from done. The top of the staircase is not yet in sight. Dr. King believed that the arc of the moral universe will bend towards justice, but I believe that it will not get there without help from us. We will accomplish the task of creating a better world for those who will come after us. We will plant the trees that will shade them from harm. We will dig the wells that will quench their thirst. We will change the minds that will change the minds. We will love people we will never meet. We will remember those who came before us so that there will be those who will come after us. And we will continue our march to the top of that long staircase towards justice. Even if we don't see the whole staircase, we will walk it, choosing to take each and every step in faith. Thank you very much.